So Hardeep is, many of you know, she's the General Manager of Food Safety and Quality at Sanford, New Zealand. She's a qualified, tertiary qualified senior management person who's held several operational, quality and technical roles in the primary food sector. Her experience has included working at Fonterra both in New Zealand and offshore in corporate and business unit roles. She's successfully developed high-performing teams, built strategy and introduced sustainable change. Building cultural awareness into business practice, Hardeep has been a key mentor in many of her leadership and management roles, and we're looking forward to hearing your insights, Hardeep, on food safety culture. Thank you.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, perfect.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, tēnā koutou katoa. Felicity, that was fantastic, and it brought back great memories for me, because obviously I was in the front line with that, and I just want to value and appreciate the hard work that Felicity and her team do to really set us up for success there. So I just wanted to make sure I said that. But now I want to switch to something a little bit different, and I'll try to make up a bit of time here for the team. So, have you heard, I don't understand why people don't follow the written procedural policy? And my session focuses on my learnings, personal insights gained through leading some culture changes from a corporate role, a business quality lead role, an operations manager, and my current role within fisheries as the GM for food safety and quality. Okay, so culture for me is the addition of norms, traditions, and beliefs. And you heard Wendy say that at the very start there. And if I can work out what these are, that's a great start point, because I'm starting to understand life from the viewpoint of others. This is in all of us, and it's formed from different experiences we have in life, and our team makeup might look quite different from what it did 20 years ago, and as the workforce becomes more diverse. So you have to iterate and you have to change. So whether it is gender, race, generations, thinking, or learning styles, this diversity forms part of our thinking in terms of how to reach our audiences, how we make it real, and in the language that our people understand at all levels. And I call this hearts and minds stuff. And there's the challenge. As humans, we're all unique and our drivers are different, but we all value respect, fairness, kindness, and being able to contribute. And we want to be heard and understood for our views without bias.
Hardeep, are you? Oh, good. Okay.
Yep.
Just remind you about your slides. Great.
Yep. I have a personal story to share around mind blocks that can be created by life experiences. I'm a fourth generation New Zealander, and I had an arranged marriage in 1997. And I remember the very first gift my husband gave me. It was a lovely black handbag. And it was a moment that created a memory for a lifetime. Fast forward to 2003, Havinda planned to go to India to watch the World Cup cricket. On his return, he brought me this flash brand new red handbag, modern and very beautiful. Fast forward another 5 years, the flash new red handbag was still sitting in the wardrobe, and I was holding on to my black bag. It had holes at the bottom of it, and I was even at the point where I put a plastic bag in its base to stop the items falling out. I have no idea how many pens I lost from this bag near the end of its shelf life. I shared this with Priya, my daughter, and she said, "Gee, Mum, that's really pathetic." So I explained. It was the memory and significance of this gift, the black handbag, that stopped what should have been a logical decision to use the new red one 6 years prior. So that was my frame of reference in life. And it was a time that stopped me from being logical. Anyway, the holes became too big and I was forced to change. Fast forward another year. Well, if you looked in my wardrobe, you would never know I had a hang up on handbags. I now have a nice selection of all different colours. And all of us will have a story where we have done something that may not have been logical in the eyes of others. So when you hear a manager say, "I don't understand why people don't follow the procedure," it is often because we don't understand the individual or the team's frame of reference and prior experiences that led them to behave as they do. We often jump to conclusions of people being belligerent when we haven't stopped to listen to understand those norms, traditions, and beliefs. Right, so another story. Right, let me explain this story. This is a very tidy picture of a whiteboard session I had with a graduate when I was an operations manager. And they were trying to understand how we manage all the different priorities because it looked like a juggling act in someone's very busy day. It is a Hardeep model and it lacks sophistication, but it was useful at the time. So starting from the left, that's the corporate role. I'm in my corporate role, a functional leader, nice, comfortable office, air conditioning, sitting behind a computer. I have time to think. I have a break, 10 cups of coffee a day. That really should have been water. And maybe a few months to research and think about a culture program before sending it to business to deploy. The program comes down the funnel and I'm there to catch it as the operations manager now. And catching all these things at a different time, the messaging and the tools are all different. So the picture sort of shows the independent functional groups doing their own things in isolation, and me as the site manager or operations manager catching it all and trying to work out, okay, which one do I do first? So in that role as that ops manager, I'm decoding, and the people I'm connecting with are often on their feet for 8 hours a day, very few breaks, no access to computers, working in cold, wet or hot, dry environments, and many doing repetitive tasks. And when things go wrong, we ask what they have done wrong and not what could we have done differently. Funnel up, turn it around the other way. So now the independent function groups and the independent programs are deploying in a connected way. So when I'm catching it, I'm getting connected models, language and collateral to help with the change that I'm leading. And now the change suddenly becomes faster and gets a wide reach. And due to the people in the business being involved, it sticks. So on our walk today in the facility, you saw me, this is to the graduate, you saw me have a conversation without using science and relating it back to day-to-day living, e.g. fish without ice in a bin prior to processing. Right, take it to a home example. Okay, George, when you went fishing with your mates this weekend, how did you look after your fish? And then it starts a conversation. Now, don't underestimate how hard it is to get senior leaders from different functions to agree to align and work together on one way. Okay, only a month ago, I had an epiphany and I was trapped in Hamilton in level 2, working isolated from my team. And I asked myself, why am I designing the program for quality culture independent of my functional peers, health and safety, environment, sustainability, and HR, when culture and risk are common to all? Am I going to confuse my teams again because we now have different problem-solving tools from each functional group, different language to learn? And wasn't this one of my biggest frustrations in the past when I was a site manager, remembering my conversation with my graduate many years ago? So I stopped. So gathering with my peers, I shared my epiphany just about a month ago now. An outcome was, let's do this collectively and use all our learnings to approach in a different way and from an integrated model approach. So I shared with the cross-functional team where I'd got to in my isolation with my teams before I stopped and reflected. And we had completed a baseline assessment using the Frank Yanis model. You've heard that come up a few times today. And we had 5 groups made up of 5 people in each, and each group was color coded. And it's fair to say when you look at those dots, our perception on quality culture was variable. We then weaved in feedback from our staff via engagement surveys and insights they were giving us, then through one-on-one conversations, and also thoughts from our CEO, who I report to, and who has an excellent grasp of food safety and quality. He said to me, even if he didn't have that capability, his expectation from my role was to have a strong voice, as I am a custodian for the consumer and the company. Don't let obstacles get in the way of doing what's right. Wow, am I lucky to have a leader who leads this way, backs my knowledge and capability. The output of the assessment generated a spiderweb plot, which you can see on the page, that provided recommendations and activities to improve maturity. Okay, then we form a plan. We use a A3 document, only called A3 because of the size of the paper. And it's strategy and action on a page. Left hand is the business need and current state. Right hand is our stakeholders, our vision, future and the work streams, and a process to measure progress against the promises. It's not a 40-page document to explain what we're doing. And here are some examples of models our peer group are now reviewing and relying on. So you'll see there on the left, the Ferguson and Hudson model and Bradley curve. They're both for health and safety maturity. And then on the right, the Frank Yanis one for quality. And no one will be surprised that they are effectively targeting the same culture maturity steps, using different words, but the same thing. So why can't we do this one way that captures the culture elements from all functional groups? So lastly, in summary, any culture change program is leading a change. Our leaders need the capability to feel confident in this space at all levels. You don't want to hear, I'm doing this because my boss said so. We want to hear, I'm leading something that I reckon is going to make us more awesome. I'd like to share what, why, how, and when, and get your feedback. Have I got this right based on your input? Are we in? Are we out? What do we add? What do we remove? Let's go. And do our leaders have the maturity to understand why sometimes what we expect to happen doesn't? And then how to connect the hearts and minds to enable a mindset shift, speaking the right language for the community we are leading. Then have a plan owned by the team. Remember, it's about making things easy for our people and giving them the platform to do amazing things. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hardeep. That's fantastic. And oh, I'm unmuted. Am I muted? No. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. That was really good. And I really liked your epiphany moment when you realized that you couldn't be doing this as an independent. You needed to be working collectively. It's fantastic. We are running out of time. We were a bit ambitious having 3 people, but or 4 people. So some of the questions have been answered by speakers as we have gone. But we've got one question for the panel from Lisa, who says, prominent recalls and reputation damage seem a key driver for change towards food safety culture. Have you knowledge of businesses who are taking a food safety culture journey in the absence, and what are their drivers? So maybe you could start with that, Hardeep, and we could bring in the others if they've got some other additional insight.
Can you just repeat that? Sorry, Vivian.
Sorry. Okay, so basically this Lisa's asking that sort of noting that most of the change towards food safety culture has come as a result of a recall or reputation damage. And do you know of businesses who have taken this food safety culture journey in the absence of those sort of drivers, and what sort of has driven?
Look, that is a great question. And it's, you know, when you're a leader, it's how you create that burning platform without having that burning platform. And I'm doing this within this fisheries role here in terms of using all that great learnings, maybe in the last 35 years and those epiphany moments, to create those stories and to make it more personal for people to understand. You might be on your feet 8 hours a day gutting a fish, but now let's make that relative to a home situation. So I think it's about how you create that burning platform without having it.
Exactly. Oh, that's great. Thank you. Anyone else want to add to that, Stefan or Felicity?
The only thing I'd add is just make sure you can also have some good case studies to share that happened in other organizations, you know, and if you can even invite people in to talk about the experience, because I agree with Hardeep, you don't want that burning platform, but if you do experience it, nothing's more powerful to get a team motivated to improve their food safety. So if you can bring people in to actually share their experience, if you haven't had that experience, I think that would help too.
Great. There's another question also from Justin, and he's asking, how do you, for anybody, how do you avoid your organizations from forgetting important food safety knowledge? For example, the Chelsea Sugar recall recently, which led from a cargo ship, you know, almost identical to the Fielders corn flour recall in 2004. So how do you avoid your organizations forgetting important food safety knowledge?
Look, I can start with that, and Felicity touched on it in terms of these things are iterative, and Stefan even spoke to it as well. Something that I have been doing is checking the websites for recalls. I mean, there's a really good website that lets you know what's happening around the world. And what we've been doing is using them in like quality shares in terms of understanding, hey, look, this has happened, but look at the impact of what's happened there. And then let's think about us. How can we prevent us from going there? Okay.
You want to add to that, Felicity?
No, I mean, I agree. I think it's an ongoing problem for everyone, but I agree with Hardeep. I think it's about just keeping food safety as part of the conversation and keep asking what would this mean if it was us? So, yeah, totally in line.
Well, I think that's all the questions. Some of the questions were answered live. Oh, one question, great message for making it real for individuals. How would you feel? I'm not quite sure about that. Yeah, I guess I think, yeah, that was one of the messages. I think, you know, when you talked about some of your pillars and there was some similar themes, which I think is fantastic to see the work that's being done across 3 different sectors, but there's a lot of common themes there, which we can all learn from. And I'm sure that we're going to learn a lot more when Wendy gets her research published. So I think I'll call it quits there because it is after 11. And I would like to just thank our speakers very much, especially Wendy for researching this important topic. Stefan for your cross-sector insights. For Felicity sharing the transformational journey of Fonterra, and of course Hardeep for your great wisdom on a topic which you are now applying at Sanford. We will be back with our next spotlight on food safety science in February on the 25th, the last Friday of the month at 10 o'clock. And if any of you would like to volunteer to give a seminar or have some suggested topics, please let me or Michael know. In the meantime, have a safe and happy Christmas, and ka kite anō ia koutou. Thank you, everybody.